We're sitting here with a phenomenal woman. I mean, you've heard Dr. Maya Angelou say it countless times.
Absolutely.
She was a phenomenal woman. And this interview here, Dr. Newell, is going to be on YouTube. So people all over the world is going to see this. So, you know, they've heard Maya, or Dr. Angelou, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Now they need to know this phenomenal woman.
Oh, boy.
Dr. Virginia Newell. 5 decades of teaching. That's a lot.
Right.
Inspiring people. Let me read something to you.
Okay.
That your daughter sent me.
Okay.
Dr. Virginia K. Newell, mathematician, author, civil rights activist, elected official, 16 years as alderman in Winston-Salem, which is big. Mother, grandmother, aunt, mentor, friend. What are your top 3 on this list? Top that means the most to you. Mathematician, author, mother, doctorate degree, public official. Which ones mean the most to you? Mother, grandmother, which one?
I think mother.
Mother.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if a woman misses being a mother,
if
you have a chance, you missed all of it.
Right.
So I think I'm proud of my kids.
That mother, right?
Absolutely.
2 children, daughters that are
That's right.
physicians.
Absolutely.
That's a big accomplishment for you and your father. I mean, your husband.
That's
who was worked at Winston-Salem State.
That's right.
Head of the science department, which is a fantastic
absolutely
deal in itself. A man mentoring program that he ran. So together, you're a dynamic duo.
Right. Well, you know, my husband was a great guy.
Yeah.
He was such a great guy. And he taught me 9th grade biology.
Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. And people said, oh, you married a kid. You know, he really didn't, because I had finished college.
Right.
And I came back to teach with him. But I always felt that he was my teacher.
Yeah. Mm.
When I was dating, I just thought that I had just slipped out with my teacher. I mean, that's a shame to say.
Yeah.
But
it's just honest. Yeah.
But it was honest, and I was, and I always admired him. Yeah. I admired him, number 1, as a teacher, and number 2, as my husband.
Absolutely.
Because he was a great guy.
Absolutely.
He looked after me, and he looked after the girls.
Yeah. And look at the partnership. I mean, look at the girls that you have. Mathematician.
Right.
When I think of a mathematician, you know more about math than most pastors know about the Bible.
Well,
I mean, you're a mathematician. So when someone comes to you, there's not a lot of things that your students, there's not a lot that you didn't know to tell your students. You know, they come to you, you had an answer.
Well, for the most part.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I never did put myself up as the epitome of knowing all the math.
Oh, wow.
I would tell my students that I knew a tablespoonful, and they probably knew a teaspoonful. But what I taught, I knew. What I taught in math, I knew.
She got your back.
But I always wanted them, I always wanted my students to challenge me.
Right.
And if I tell you something that is not true, just challenge me. I remember I was at Yale. You told me about the Yale Summer High School.
Yes.
And there was a Yalie in my class who was a tutor. He was tutoring the children. And after I got through with him. And he said one day, I mentioned to the kids that differential integral calculus was before differential calculus. Well, the little tutor thought, oh, I got her now, because differential calculus comes first in the book. And I know I have her. He said, oh, are you sure that that statement is true? I said, well, why do you think it's false? And he says, well, I thought it was. I said, well, I'll tell you what you do. You go to Sterling Library at Yale, and you look for Dr. Boyer's book, The History of Mathematics.
Right.
And read it and come back and let me know which is first.
Right.
The next morning, he got to my class before 7 o'clock. He was running. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, why are you sorry? He said, because I questioned you yesterday on integral calculus. He said it was first. I said, well, don't ever say that you know it all. I keep telling
What a
you
lesson.
that all of us are learning. Even at Yale,
What a
even
lesson.
at Harvard, you are learning. And I said, mathematics is being created every day. So I said,
What a lesson.
just ask the question. And I said, you'll remember that it started. And I said, by the way, go back and read Boyer's book, and he'll tell you all about mathematics. So he
That's a
was
good
wonderful.
lesson. That's a
He
good
was
lesson.
wonderful. And I had some great experiences all over, while I was teaching.
Now, during that summer, Yale summer school, you taught kids that were from underprivileged areas, but they went to Ivy League schools. Tell me about the program, a little bit about
The
that.
program started when the kids were demonstrating. It started in the 60s.
Okay.
When the kids were demonstrating during the 60s, and that's why the president of Hampton was one of the first one who was a student with Kingman Brewster. Kingman Brewster was the president of Yale at that time. And he and this man from Hampton got together and said, why can't we coalesce, get that group of kids together, because those kids are smart. They are demonstrating, and the fact that they're demonstrating means that they are above the average student.
They just live in a certain neighborhood.
There
Absolutely.
you go. He said, let us
Give them
get
a chance.
together and make a
Absolutely.
program.
Wow.
And they did. Kingman Brewster and Bud Holland, that's what his name was. So how I got there, one of Bud Holland's faculty members was my president at Shaw University. And he thought that I knew all the math in the world. Well,
it's a reason
know,
they thought that, Dr. Newell. You're
well,
a genius at math.
all right. Well,
so it's a reason.
I like math, and I made honors.
Right.
And I loved it. My daddy loved it. My granddaddy loved it. I think it was in my DNA.
And so he invited you to come teach that summer
Absolutely.
program.
He put me in
That is
with
phenomenal.
the faculty that he was going to share with Kingman Brewster at Yale to go to Yale. And when I got there, I was really, I said, well, golly, how in the world did I get here? To Yale University. Well, first of all, I had been to the University of Chicago for 1 year, and I had studied modern mathematics for 1 year at the University of Chicago with the great ones. And by the way, the president, the math chair at Yale was one of the persons who created the new math, Ed Beagle. So when I arrived at Yale, the lady who met me at the airport, she was carrying me to her house, and she said, by the way, that's Ed Beagle's house. Well, I didn't open my mouth. And I just said, great. So when I got to her house and I had one of my daughters with me, she said, I mentioned Ed Beagle and you didn't say anything the other day.
You were supposed to be like, wow, right?
I was supposed to say, wow,
yeah.
What do you mean?
Exactly.
Well, she said, I wonder if you knew him. I said, well, let me see if I do know him. I said, Ed Beagle is chair of the Department of Mathematics here at Yale. I said, he was one of the persons who started the new mathematics. I said, in fact, he was chairman of the committee to start it. And I said, what I like about Ed Beagle, he wanted to do it with the little first graders. And by the way, the president here at Yale didn't want Ed Beagle to be bothered with the little first graders and the little kindergarten people. So he made it a little difficult for him to be here. And I think he was one of the persons who suggested that maybe Ed Beagle should retire or should leave Yale. I said, but he wrote the books that I learned at the University of Chicago.
So do I know Ed Beagle? Yes,
I said, do I know Ed Beagle?
Yes, I know Ed Vigo.
And
Right.
she said to me, I'm sorry.
That's fantastic.
I ended up being the chairman, and my boss was asked to go to general administration in Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
And he was the one that he said that he named me, but I'm not sure about that. I think that my president at that time, who was Dr. Covington, was the one who wanted me to be chairman of the department. And I remember in the department, because when I went to Winston-Salem, I thought they had a major.
Right.
They didn't have a major in mathematics. They had a little minor. And I worked hard to try to get a major in math, because there was a major in math at Shaw. And we were just great guns, pushing to get kids to graduate. So we did that, but Nathan was off to get his doctorate when I got there. So one of the things that happened to us, we were not a part of the general administration, part of the 16 constituent universities. We were just a little college training teachers. So then they finally asked us to come in. When they asked us to come in from general administration, we had to have tests. Well, in the meantime, I paid money to get standardized tests to give to my students so they would be the top students when the time came for them to perform. And we had to do that because they didn't give our kids that. They didn't want us to teach calculus. They didn't want us to teach trigonometry. They didn't want us to teach analytics.
So you all had to sacrifice.
We had to sacrifice.
To make sure young black kids get what they deserve as well.
I did that in Raleigh.
Wow.
We had to sacrifice and put money out.
Of your own pockets.
Own pockets.
Wow.
For years.
Wow.
To have our kids to take the national exam or the top exams that we had. And when they went in, my students at first went in at Shaw, down at State College. And when they went in to State College, they were making 98s and 99s and being admitted to the honorary department because I had pushed for them.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
And we have to do it today. Mr. Brown, I want to tell you, our kids are failing. Our kids are failing, and we are sitting by. They are failing because teachers do not have that same
passion,
interests.
Yes.
They don't believe that our kids can pass. You remember.
And it's good that it's coming from you. Five decades of educating.
Absolutely.
It's good, and the sacrifices you made. Educators need to hear this from you.
I know that.
That is fantastic.
And I don't want people to believe that I know it all.
But now, what do we need more from the parents?
We do need the parents.
What do we need from these parents?
What did I tell you about my mom and dad?
Right.
The little 10 cents that my daddy gave me to make the honor roll at Adkins meant so much.
So you're saying when your mom and dad believes in you.
Absolutely.
What do you, same thing with your daughters that are now doctors, you and your husband, what did you put into them because becoming a physician is a big deal. I think whatever you love is a big deal. If you're a garbage man, if you love it and do it well, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
But to become doctors, African-American young ladies, what did you and your husband do to push them? One
of the things that my husband always talked to, my husband was valedictorian of everything. Now, I was valedictorian in elementary, and I got a little honor when I was in the 5th grade, and I got honors. I finished high school with honors. My husband finished top of the class. Now, so you asked where the brains came from. They came from him. And his parents were very smart. They taught school at least a few years out of the year. And we always taught the kids, and Mama did, idle brains is the devil's workshop. She kept our mind on something that was good.
That mattered.
That mattered.
That mattered, yeah.
You had to get your poems, you had to get your reading, you had to get your mathematics, you had to get your spelling, every day we went into that house.
It's almost like the mindset of the Renaissance era.
Absolutely.
Because that Renaissance era was the era that says, look, we are well-read too.
Absolutely.
We are just as intelligent as everyone else in America.
Absolutely.
Yes, kind of remind me of that era.
And we kept the neighborhood from being a ghetto. We were the only blacks because my 4 parents were there, but they died out. And they left the land, and the whites came in and bought it. So we were we were the second family in that neighborhood. And I would help my little friends, my little neighbors' kids teach with the math. And I said, Mom, they're having some hard times trying to get this stuff she said, well, you go there and you stay 30 minutes. Tell the mother that you've got to come back home.
That is what it's all about.
And I would go and I said, Mom, I'm trying to help them, but they don't understand what's going on.
Right. But still your mom, although she gave you a time limit, she still said, go help.
Absolutely.
And that was always been in your DNA.
Always in my DNA.
Absolutely.
I wanted to help the kids that were having difficulty.
Right.
And for 18 years while I was teaching in math, part of the chairperson, I had a little program called the Math and Science Academy of Excellence, where I would take 6th, 7th, 8th kids and teach them on Saturday. I did that for 18 years.
Our children today
absolutely
are failing at math and science. Why is that such a difficult subject for us? It seems like.
And look, let me tell you, the person who laid out Washington, D.C. was a black man. I wrote a book, Black Mathematicians and Their Works. And this man laid out the plan. He didn't get a PhD in math. He just knew it. It was in his DNA.
Black man.
And they knew it. And my book has this man's picture on the back of it. But we knew, and my daddy was a guru in math. He knew cube roots. And his parents and grandparents, although they went over into the other area, they were good in math. They were good in that. And a lot of my brothers and sisters were very good in math.
And it seemed like that was like math and science and things like that back then.
Absolutely.
It seemed like it mattered to us to know because we knew how important and how it was going to be the future. How did it fall off, Dr. Newell?
Well, let me tell you that education is life. It is what you have to have. You can't get along without it.
I'll tell you something I teach kids, Dr. Newell, is that we always hear that knowledge is power. Absolutely. Knowledge is the key to success. Absolutely. But something I learned is that that's only true when you apply it.
You are absolutely right.
All it is dormant.
Look,
unless you apply it. And when you apply it, that's when the power, that's when the blessings come.
Listen.
Yes.
What happened? We did not, even back in slavery.
Right.
If you go back and read it, slaves never did want to be slaves. They fought it all the way. And it's in the books. But a lot of the predominant culture didn't want you to know that. That blacks would rise up. Nobody who is intelligent wants to be submissive to somebody else. You want to be the head. God made us to be the head.
That's right. Absolutely.
He gave us this. And as I said to one of the ladies, I used to carry my kids to the library in Raleigh when they were tiny, before they ever could write. I went to the library and wrote their little names. They got out little books that they couldn't read them, they could look at them. You got it? And they would put it in their mouths and all. But what I did one day, they would get Little Red Riding Hood, Goldilocks, and the Jack and the Beanstalk. I said, honey, wait a minute. You want to put those books back, you know those books. And the librarian says, Virginia, Why, those kids ought to be able to get their own books. You shouldn't. I said, are you kidding? God gave them a mama to make the decision for them, and I'm making a decision. They're going to take those books back, and we're going to get some more books because they know those books by heart. You got it? And so my kids would go get books, and my youngest child started reading at 2.5 to 3, and she was reading on the 6th grade level when she went to 1st grade. Now, why did she do that? If I had let her read Little Red Riding Hood
Something
for
she
3
already
years.
knew. Exactly.
And that's what they're doing today. They are letting the kids play in the sandbox until they are 10 years old. And they can't get out of the sandbox. My husband has a cousin. He's a doctor. He was put away from school because he didn't want to play in the sandbox when he first got to school. He was expelled in the 1st grade, in the kindergarten. And they asked why. Was Hubert expelled? He rebelled in playing in the sandbox.
He wanted to learn something.
He said, I've done that. And I want something else. So when blacks go to school, for the most part, even today, they are still putting them in the sandbox. And the mothers don't know the difference. And it makes me cry.
That's why we can't get past this.
It makes me cry. That's why 900
Right.
kids in Winston-Salem can't read and they can't spell. And it's because the parents are
putting them in that
leaving it alone. They are thinking that the teachers can help. They are thinking that the computer can help, and the computer can't.
It starts at home.
It starts with that mom and that dad.
Wow. So, Dr. Newell, I just had the greatest history lesson that I've ever had in my 54 years.
You're wonderful.
I'm from San Francisco, California, and I didn't know much about our history until I moved to North Carolina in '93.
Right.
But it's something about living history like yourself.
Absolutely.
Walking and breathing history like yourself.
Absolutely.
And for those who are watching that are younger and parents that are watching, I say to you that Virginia Newell is here. Let us teach our children to do what they need to do and make the sacrifices they need to make to educate themselves, to better themselves, so she can see that. So she can know that all that work you've done was not in vain.
Oh, this would make me happier. Absolutely.
You did get a black president.
Lord, we fought hard.
Right, and we may have our second with your good friend here, Oprah Winfrey.
Isn't that something?
We'll get a close-up of this, TJ. This is Dr. Angela, Oprah Winfrey, and Dr. Newell. Isn't that something?
That's right.
So I'm going to challenge myself, Dr. Newell,
well, please
to make the sacrifices you made for our children,
and
my children as well.
And you have already done a great deal. Because I used to listen to you when my kids were younger. I would listen to Busta Brown. I would always get that. You always had something that was good for us. And I would encourage my kids to do it. I bet you my kids know you.
Wow.
They think
that's
they
an
know.
honor.
They think they know.
That is an honor.
But I think they know you.
Again, happy birthday.
Well, thank you so much. And nobody believes it, but I am.
100. Who could believe you look beautiful and you're still as sharp as ever?
Well, thank you.
So happy birthday, and may God bless you with many more to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for spending the time here with me.